The 86. There aren't many model names in the motoring world more iconic than it. And it all started with this. You know what this is, right?
It was in the movies, comics, animes, made famous by a famous drifter, adopted heavily by a local drift hero, and the credits can just keep rolling. A new model was produced to continue the legacy and proved successful, with over 200,000 units sold globally, and now, some 40 years later since the first model, we have this, the GR86. The new GR86 is lower and longer than before. It's also more stable with a center of gravity that's lower than the Nissan GT-R. It also has more aerodynamic bits on the front, side and rear sections of the car for better airflow.
For now, I think we should just take a moment and admire how the 86 looks. I think it looks really proportionate. Whichever angle you look at it from, there's just nothing about it that looks odd.
Not many cars look similar to their design sketches. It's almost like a sculpture. It doesn't need too much makeup to get your attention. It stands out, but in a discreet way, and I like that.
Aside from the obvious GR badges in the front and the back, it also promotes the GR branding very discreetly through the front mesh grille. There's actually a lot of G's hidden in there. You can even say it looks a lot more mature and polished than the previous generation. I can't see an older person coming out of the previous generation model, but in this, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 50s, 60s, I think it's suitable for all ages. While the previous model looked quite aggressive, this one has cleaner lines, and because of that, I think it'll look timeless for many more years to come. You just can't go wrong with that silhouette.
As for the 18-inch wheels, the spoke design was inspired by Japanese swords.
The GR86 is available in several colors. You got red, black, grey, but if you ask me, after having this for several days, I'd go with the white. Together with that wheel design, this ducktail spoiler, it just pops. This, by the way, is my most favoritist angle of the car. I can just look at it forever. They've moved the number plate from this area here to the bumper, and if you ask me, 10 out of 10. The first thing you'll notice inside here is how ergonomic the cabin is. According to Toyota designers, the cabin was designed to reduce the driver's eye movement, allowing them to focus on driving, and it's really obvious in here.
Everything is within reach, from the gear lever to the window switches, and if you're just cruising, all the touch points are padded with nothing in your way.
Compared to before, the cabin definitely feels a lot more luxurious, more grown up, with a lot more tech.
There's Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, a digital meter display with a G meter, acceleration graph, voltage display, oil temperature, a lap timer, and different graphics when you're in track mode.
I also like that it has a rev limit buzzer. Not only does it serve as a gear shift indicator, you can also set at which RPM you want the buzzer to come on, so you don't over-rev the engine.
If you notice, there are a lot of red details. Red carpets, red door inserts, red stitching, red trims, and it's all part of the emotional package. These seats are actually higher spec lightweight seats with suede and leather. The entry-level one is full fabric.
It's so comfortable and supportive. And overall, appearance-wise, I think the cabin looks sporty without being too jarring. It doesn't make you cringe. There's just a right amount of red and just the right color tone. You do get rear seats, and I have carried some passengers, but maybe keep it for short distances. If it's just you and your partner most of the time, space will never be an issue in here. Maybe the feel of these knobs and switches can be a little more solid, but did it bother me? Nope.
The boot is actually just slightly smaller than the previous model, but it's still a lot of space for a sports car. The boot opening is wider than before, but as for the boot floor, you now get a full-size spare, so yeah.
Well, at least you got a full-size Michelin Pilot Sport tyre back there. No need to worry about turning back, cancelling your road trip if something happens to your tyre. Just change it and carry on. Maybe I was too distracted, having too much fun, but also because everything that matters in a car like this is on point. I'm talking about driving position, visibility, and there's just something about being in this seat that makes you want to drive.
I may have made it sound like the perfect car, but of course, no car is ever perfect, and this is no different. After spending 1,000 kilometers in the GR86, firstly, at idle, the car doesn't have the most attractive sound.
It feels like it doesn't like going slow. Either you drive it at a moderate speed or full throttle. In the city centre, low-speed driving, especially in first and second gear, if you're not smooth with the clutch, it does feel a bit jerky. And also, in low-speed driving, the ride does feel a bit stiff, but I wouldn't call it uncomfortable.
When the roads open up or start becoming winding, that's when the 86 comes alive, and oh my god, it just makes you smile. The way it delivers its power is so progressive, and just to highlight that even more, Toyota even included the actual power delivery graph in the meter.
When you're going full throttle, gear after gear, it doesn't feel like it's running out of breath. It just wants to go and go and go. And I wouldn't say it has the best sound, but it is quite intoxicating. It just makes you want to keep going.
The sound is partly from the engine, but it's also amplified into the cabin through a speaker behind the aircon knobs. It's definitely not as fast as the GR is, but definitely more lively, and nothing beats the instant response of a naturally aspirated engine. Every step of the throttle and the car just reacts instantly. And it's partly down to the weight. It's got a lighter roof, fenders, rear muffler, drive shaft and seats. Weighing just 1.2 tons, this thing is even lighter than the Corolla Altis. In fact, Toyota claims that the GR86 is the world's lightest four-seater, and that has had a very positive effect on the car's acceleration.
230 horsepower may not sound like much these days, but for this car, it's plenty enough power. More importantly, it's power you can fully utilize. It's very controllable. What's the point of having 500 horsepower when 90% of the time you can only utilize 50% of the car's potential? In a way, it's also very raw, but without the downsides like fatigue, discomfort, vibrations. Compare this to something like the Lotus Elise, which is also very raw. Try driving that long distance outstation and you'll understand. And even when you're cruising at a very high speed, cabin noise is at a minimal. Trust me. Unlike the previous 2-litre engine where you gotta rev to the limit to get power, with this new 2.4 engine, there's a wider power band, there's more power across the revs. Overtaking is so effortless.
This is partly down to the larger intake manifold for more linear power delivery. It's also got stiffer bushings for its new power steering system.
What you get then is a steering that's nicely weighted and precise. It reacts obediently to your every input. In Cantonese, we call this Tangwa, dengar cakap. And it's very communicative as well. It tells you everything the car is going through.
This is the result of a significantly stiffened front section of the chassis. Overall, the chassis has been stiffened by 60%, reducing body flex by 50%. Even though the first and second gear is a bit tricky, once you start picking up speed from second to sixth gear, my goodness, it's hard to not have a silly grin on your face. And that's what the chief engineer of this car wanted.
In fact, when they were developing this car, that was the goal they set. The chief engineer said that when you get behind the wheel of this car, it needs to put a smile on your face. I think they achieved that, with me at least.
There's a satisfaction just from changing the gears. It's got really short travels, it feels tight, and every gear change is a real boost to your ego. And again, like the steering, the throttle pedal response, the gear changes feel so precise.
I'm sure you'll have just as much fun, you'll enjoy the car with an automatic gearbox, but if you ask me, if you want the full 86 experience, get the manual. If there's one takeaway from this video about this car, precise is what I want you to remember. It's so sharp and obedient to every input that it exposes the driver's weaknesses. If you're not smooth with the steering, you're not smooth with the throttle pedal, the clutch, your gear changes, the car behaves weirdly. as if asking you, what the are you doing?
It's also more mature and it feels like a grown-up that has learned some skills along the way. It's better insulated, it comes with cornering lights, it's more practical, mechanically, technologically more sophisticated, and more aerodynamic. Before, the 86 felt one-sided. It was great for a Sunday drive, but there were compromises on longer journeys. With this, it's still every bit a fun car, but more refined. You can actually take it on long road trips.
In terms of driving experience, it's very hard to find fault with the car. It still has the essence of the 86, fun to drive, engaging, but with this one, it feels more mature, more refined, more well equipped. Shit, I don't want to return this car. If you're looking for a two-door sports car, one that's under 300,000 ringgit, naturally aspirated, with power you can fully utilize, rear-wheel drive with great handling, look no further. Otherwise, just get the automatic, because I refuse to compare this car with anything else. For more information on the Toyota GR86, do log on to AutoBuzz.my. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, share it, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon for the latest notifications on our newest videos.